Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday morning trading session. Hang on one second here while I get you my monitor to follow. Okay, I'm looking at the NASDAQ here, and the market's just opened up. Remember that I'd be happy to take a look at any market which is of interest to you. So if you're not necessarily following the NASDAQ, if you're following gold or soybeans, or I don't think I can get butter on my data feed, but I'll look at any market which you're interested in. Remember, this is your trading room. I'm here for your benefit to help you guys and girls get a handle on your DTS systems. All right, we just had the market opened, and it seems like it was a relatively soft open compared to where the market left off. Let's take a look here what's been going on in the overnight. You can see a little bit of choppiness going on. The market settled at, looks like around 43.90 yesterday. I forget the exact close. A little bit of whippiness going here through the Asian session and into the overnight session, where the market pretty much recovered, opening at around 4,400, 4,401. So a teeny tiny opening gap below the market. This is on the Raptor, of course, that I'm looking at. But you'll see the same thing on your other tools as well. A lot of volume going into the open. See the width of these bars? There is a ton of volume there. 2,500 contracts traded there, another 2,800 contracts traded there, another 2,600 contracts traded there. So the 3 or 4 bars going into that opening bell had almost 10,000 contracts traded. That's a lot. That's usually the kind of spike that you see out of the open, where you get that kind of volume going into the first few bars after the open. And it looks like we're getting a little bit more bullish here, getting some early greenness happening on the hawk. Early signal here on the the eagle. I wouldn't necessarily consider this a red bar buy because the band is kind of bearish here. Although, we are bouncing off of the trend line, so that may carry a little bit more weight with it if you wanted to give that one a poke. Although Trade Forecaster says we're in scalp mode for another 56 minutes, it is possible we will see a little bit of a rally out of that. I think we're also getting a cloud crossover. No, we're not. No cloud crossover in the Raptor yet. I'm a little bit quick on that one. Possible trend change signal brewing here on the Falcon, however. Now, the trend change signal, remember, it occurs when your trend line goes from red to green. We get this little move up that changes the trend line color. Then we get the sellers trying to recover the market, and then we get the buyers trying to bring the market back. And if they do that, we should be able to see a buy signal develop here. Crude and gold are the other two markets I'm following at the moment, both of which seem to be fairly content where they are. Okay, this first micro-macro cross on the hawk was spoiled by the yellow bars. And we are getting a bit of a second push on this signal here in the eagle. So I'm going to take it just above the high, cover it below the low. Can I do that? I can. Now, this is still very early, right? We just got a few bars printing after the open. Here's the trend change signal on the Falcon, so pretty much the same thing that we're looking at on the Eagle. I wouldn't necessarily load up on this trade like you see me doing here. This is the type of trade where, like I say, you may just want to take a shot at it to see which way the market is drifting. Here we're working on a first micro-macro cross with the hawk as well. I would probably take a single contract on the hawk here just to reduce the risk and run it out. So we got filled there. I'll probably delete my break even and my profit objective and just see whether or not this is going to run out a little bit. Because sometimes that first signal of the day, it does carry a little added momentum to it sometimes. So we're working on a possible cloud crossover here on the Raptor as well. I suppose you could have considered this signal here a soft edge buy, seeing how we retested the lows and bounced. If we are going to get this cloud crossover, we can anticipate that here on the Raptor. Let's focus on the cloud crossover. It looks like this, but in reverse. So the clouds cross over, the market retreats into the cloud, we look for the cloud to offer some sort of support, and then we generate a signal coming out of there. Now you can see this is actually a cloud crossover signal that has not met its profit objective yet. Now it's not necessarily a bad signal. It depends, of course, where you placed your stop. If you had your stop, in above these highs here, then yes, it would have been a poor signal for you. You would currently be stopped out. If your stops, however, are above this high, well, then it's not a bad signal yet, is it? When Stephanie was still at Indicator Warehouse, she would always, and we'd be reviewing signals and such, she'd always say, oh, well, that was a failed signal. And I would say, no, it's not a failed signal. Well, yes, it reversed and it went out above the high of the bar. No. Your stop isn't necessarily one bar back, Stephanie. It's just like, okay, now we're getting the cloud crossover signal. I'm going to put a order in to buy on the hash mark here. And what would end up happening is, Stephanie, like a lot of traders, try to keep their risk exposure small, and therefore they throw their stops in right below that signal bar. Well, that's nothing wrong with that, except you have zero ability to ride out the market, right? Even a slight hesitation like this one. Now, we didn't get filled here. We actually didn't print the signal. I'm anticipating the signal printing here now at 44.08. But the point is, the markets rarely make a straight line to your profit target. This was a very nice progression lower, but more often it looks like this. It goes up a little bit, comes down a little bit, goes up a little bit more, hopefully, comes down a little bit. Okay, so it looks like we're going to print our hash mark at 44.09 quarter if, in fact, we do get the hash mark. No, not yet. So again, the cloud crossover, the clouds have crossed. Come on. Oh, there's the hash mark. The clouds have crossed, the market retreated into the clouds, it's come out, it's produced a signal. We should anticipate a little bit of a rally here. Where's the support and resistance suite numbers? Yes, so we've got primary Resistance here at 44.10 half. That seems to be giving us a little bit of early reaction to the trading that's going on. And I think I'm going to employ my ATR stop here on the hawk. And it's probably, I'd like to get one more bar in here before I start rolling up on the eagle. Come on. Come on, you know you want to. There you go. All right, so we got a full house now. We're long across the board. The Falcon hit the break-even trigger. Come on, don't stop now. Get up there. There we go. All right. So the Falcon trade hit its first profit objective. I got another bullish bar here on the Eagle. You see the tails on these bars? That tells me that there was some pretty serious selling going on, but the buyers recovered the bars. If I wanted to, I could roll my stops directly below these bars here. If you were anxious about the trade, chances are very good that the buyers are going to protect the market at that level. Certainly this bar here, as the market drifts a little bit lower and closer to where the buyers stepped in, things are going to get a little bit more bullish, right? The buyers are going to get a little bit more aggressive. Oh, I'm going to do my very best to be patient with this trade. Look at the volume that went through here on the Raptor. Ooh, I better get a stop going here on the Raptor. I didn't even notice I don't have a stop in play. Russell asks, how about a 4-arrow consolidation in the Hawk? All right, let's take a look here. Yeah, good call, Russell. That is a 4-arrow consolidation. Now, whenever you're in a trade, in a Hawk trade, sometimes you'll get into a trade a little bit early and then the market will start to go sideways or even retreat against you a little bit. That's the time to be on the lookout for a 4-arrow consolidation. And the 4-arrow consolidation, typically the best 4-arrow consolidations in an uptrend are going to look something like this. Where you get this bear flag type situation and you're going to print 4 arrows and then the market's going to move off the 4th arrow. In a downtrend, it's going to have the opposite look to it, where you get this bear flag type situation, and you're going to print 4 down arrows or triggers, and the market's going to end up moving lower. Occasionally, you'll get a 4-arrow consolidation. Oops. That looks, doggone it, that looks like this, where the market ends up going sideways before it rallies. And you'll get your 4 arrows here, and then the market's going to go off the 4th arrow. The weaker 4-arrow consolidations look something like this, where you have this upslope. It's almost like a last-ditch effort of the buyers to try to recover the market, and they don't usually. Usually you'll get a little bit of a push, and then boom, she'll go the other way. So out of the 4-arrow consolidations, these are your best. This one is acceptable. These you usually steer away from. Or if you're going to try them, you dial down the risk, and hopefully you'll at least hit your profit objective. Okay, so the market did a little stutter step here. I was a little bit quick with my stops. I should have anticipated at least one more move lower, but we came back with a red bar buy signal. If I did not roll my stops when I did, I would have started rolling them after this red bar buy. So my stops were down here initially. I would roll them to here. Now it's your choice how aggressive you want to be. If this bar turns green and finishes on the high, I would certainly take my stops to here. Because we do have a little bit of a double top type thing going on, don't we? I anticipate the market's going to try to make a move lower sometime during this session, because after all, it was fairly bearish through the overnight. Well, more choppy, I suppose, than bearish. Okay, so now we can do the same thing here on the eagle. We can roll below this low right here, right? Because this is the same low that we were just watching on the hawk. And we could do the same thing. Oh, the raptor's already rolled. So maybe I'll go to the swing low. Oops. Maybe not. The swings are calculated a little bit differently on the eagle than they are on the raptor. A lot of yellow bars in here. So we're going to see the sellers step up here sooner rather than later, I think. All right, I'm going to chicken out here on the eagle trade and force that to break even. So I'm just going to give it this bar right now. We are getting technically another first micro macro cross signal here on the hawk. So if you wanted to throw a onesie on that, oh, there it is right there. You'd have to cover below there. This is going to be a tough little scalp, folks. You can see we're getting a lot of resistance here. at this 44.11-ish line. So this is a very, very aggressive trade on my part. Now if we can see somebody take the other side of 44.11, then we're going to start trapping some of these sellers out of their positions. And seller's exit stop, of course, is a buy order. I hope that stops deep enough for that first micro-macro cross. Like I said, not the prettiest signal we've come across. A lot of volume coming through these bars again. Look at how the width of these bars. We'll concentrate here on the Raptor for a moment. The Geiger counter fairly evenly balanced between the buying and the selling. So you can see the buyers tried to fight this bar up, the sellers took it back. We're going to assume that there were more sellers on this bar because it closed low. We don't know for certain though. We know there was a lot of volume going through there. Oh, way to go, Ryman. Ryman grabbing 6 ticks on the trade. He says, better than nothing. Yes, sir. Banking a profit is always a good deal. I'm a little concerned about this 44.11 area. We're going to see a little bit of a swing here. It's unclear at this time whether or not we're going to get one more push. Yeah, like Tony says, 3 times now the market's bounced off of the primary resistance line here at 44.10-ish. Still making higher swing lows. That's good. If the market turns here, we're going to get one more press. Here's a red bar buy signal. So we're definitely, the bulls are going to have to dig deep to rally now. This is actually a better place to buy than the first micro macro cross. Or, of course, the red bar buy is also our counter trend signal. You could set up to short if the market breaks the lows. All right, so the buyers digging in. Come on, buyers. Somebody's got to take the other side of that trade. All right, here we are, 44.11. Oh, 44.10 and 3/4. 44.11. There we go, 44.11 quarter. And come on, sellers. Run away. No, not yet. Yeah, the seller's selling. You can see the dial here on the Geiger counter. It's kind of stuck over to the sell side for a little bit, which is to be expected because they've honored this area 3 times in the past. This is number 4. Now the buyers really got to push. Where's Ray Burke when I need him? He could get in there and with his push. Come on, get up there. We'll give it a little nudge with the mouse. Sometimes that helps. All right, I guess I'd better start getting a little bit more aggressive with my stop. You see how the market has built up some support here. I should probably bring my stops in below there. And maybe I'll just use the ATR stop. Oops, that's getting a little bit close. Let's disengage that. Let's put it back below here. I wasn't expecting the market to look behind so soon. There we go. All right. It's always a balancing act when the market is chopping like this. You're trying to minimize your exposure, but at the same time, you don't want to get stopped out too early. Come on, get up there. Come on, you can do it. Well, dead neutral market at the moment. Dead even. I'm kind of tempted to reverse on this trade if the market falls through the support here. And my stop's rolling a little bit too quickly here on the hawk. So I'm going to disengage my stop strategy for the moment. Oh, all these yellow bars. All right, maybe I will let the trade manager take my stop. All right, so there's the hawk. And yeah, the buyers walking away, not following through on their breakout. All right, so now we have the red bar buy signal. Remember how I spoke about possibly reversing on the trade? You could have shorted from below here. We'll see whether or not they give us a first micro macro cross. Otherwise, you could also short the failure of this red bar buy. But let's try not to get too crazy about hopping in and out of the market. What I showed you here this morning, I would not normally take all 4 trades like that. Not that close to the open. Yeah, and like Ryman says, it's going sideways now and scalping for 9 minutes. And of course, Trade Forecaster says we've got about another half hour of very, very choppy trading. There's some pretty strong support down here at this 4402 area. Technically, you could consider this a soft edge sell signal, but really it's a little hazy. Oop, there's our first micro macro cross. Or did that line up? No, that was still on a gray macro line. You see, what I'll do sometimes, well, you've seen me do it in the mornings as well, is I'll take a trade, one trade, usually a single contract, and just see whether the market is going to follow through on that signal. If the market followed through on the buy signal, well, then we can be fairly bullish until proven otherwise. If the market fails on the buy signal, well, I've only lost on a single contract. Hopefully I was able to manage my risk so that I didn't get tapped for the full amount, for the full loss. And then I'll know that the buyers are not controlling the market, in which case I can be more open to sell signals. Let's take a look here. Russell says, oop, I need to change my settings. 1 second. Russell's looking at a rule of 3 on gold. Bear with me here. All right, now we got the first micro macro cross and the signal has engaged. Let's see if I get a second chance at that one. I'll have to take it there. Got to cover it back there. Can't help that part. If we get this market retreating a little bit into a macro pullback type situation, I'll delete my profit objective and my break-even trigger. All right, so let's take a look at gold now. This is August gold. Yeah, you're right, Russell. So we've got the market very much in a downtrend, and we've produced one signal, countered the band, 2 signals against the band. If we get that third signal, there's a real possibility that we're going to see a little bit of an uptick here. I would love to see a very deep push against this low. Maybe something like this, and then the market reverse and come back and produce a buy signal. Can anybody tell me why? Can anybody tell me why I would like to see the market give me a deep retest here? I'll give you guys a second for you hunt and peck typists. See if you can figure out why I might be looking to why it would be more favorable to have a very deep retrace. Yeah, Tony says a real good test of the extreme. Yeah, Ryman says the sellers are failing. You see this big trend? We've got a pretty big downtrend here, don't we? At the moment, if we connect the dots, this may become nothing more than a bear flag, in which case we should have sold this green bar sell, and the sellers are going to regain control of the market. If we get a deep retest and it fails and it comes back with another buy signal, then we can have a little bit more confidence, because the sellers, having broken out of this bear flag, will have failed, and it will make the buy that much more probable. So far they're following the plan pretty well. Let's see whether or not the buyers step in here now and actually recover the market. Now, it would be okay even if we broke ever so slightly. Let's say we broke here and maybe even went a touch lower before recovering. I would still be okay with that, because the principle is still the same. It would be best if it didn't break, but even if it broke a little bit, and little bit of course is very subjective, it would show us that the buyers are strong enough to recover the market and finish what they started. Or at the very least, the market's going to end up in a sideways range. The buyers may not get a full-out rally, and the sideways range, obviously not what we're looking for if we're looking to buy, especially near the top end of this range. But you need to kind of keep the context in mind also. So we'll follow along with gold here for a moment. And see whether or not we get that recovery and that third signal. See, will I be able to cover it below the low? No, of course not. Of course not. It's gold. All right, well, they're kind of taking their time now. All right, well, they've dried up a little bit. Let's put that back on the shelf for the moment. We'll revisit that. And let's take a look here how we're doing with our hawk trade. And you can say we got the macro pullback signal, which actually coincided with the first micro-macro cross signal. And we could also be making a 4-arrow consolidation. There's one, there's 2 arrows, but you know what? This signal, I would consider this signal as arrow number 3, even though it didn't trip. We got 1, 2, 3 signals to sell. Here comes signal number 4. You might consider drawing a little bear flag like this and actually placing your entry, instead of at the hash mark, a couple of ticks further so that you get below this little trend line. And if we get that second push lower, then we can become more aggressive with our stops. The whole 44.02 area continuing to be very problematic. 44.02, 4400, this whole area right here near the median line. 44.02, of course, being the little itty-bitty swing low that we had this morning. At least I think it was 44.02. 44.02 and 3/4. Okay, things getting a little bit more bullish again. Nice little bounce off the trend line here. I guess I shouldn't be deleting my profit objectives with my first micro macro cross, given how choppy the market is today. I should forget about trying to run it out. So if we get this green bar sell, that'll be time to start rolling those stops in. Good comment here from Ryman. Ryman says, I'm glad that I've got the trade manager and that I'm using a 2% risk also. So what Ryman's talking about is this risk exposure right down there. He says, that saved me a lot of money on the losers. And that's exactly what it's for. You know, people who bust their trading accounts, they scratch their heads wondering what went wrong. And usually what went wrong is they risk far more than they could afford to lose. Even if I do nothing with this trade and the market rallies and stops me out here, as unpleasant as that is, I have not lost more than I can afford. This loss is not going to ruin my account. And that's very important. Honestly, this market could not be more neutral right now. Buyers push up a little bit, sellers push down. Buyers push up a little bit. Should see the sellers try to react here one more time. The challenge right now with my stop is just to stay out of the way. And admittedly, it's very difficult to do on a day like today, just to leave your stops back and let the market sort itself out. Much easier said than done. See, it almost seems like it's building itself into a trading range. If we take a look here at the Eagle, we've got this kind of thing going on. So currently the buyers seem to be respecting the trend line somewhat. Problem with trading ranges, buyers are going to be buying down here, sellers are going to be selling up here. Nobody owns the middle. They're balanced. So we actually ended up taking a sell signal somewhere near this bottom end where the buyers got aggressive. And now we just have to wait and see whether or not we're going to get some follow through on that. I do believe that had I used my profit objective, however, so there was the first micro macro cross signal. Let's just throw a stop up there. Yeah, see? Hit the high probability target. Doggone it. All right, green bar sell. We should see one more attempt to move this market lower. And if that fails, well, then the buyers are going to take over once more. Here's the problem with counter trend trades. You know, Russell was absolutely correct spotting that beginning of a rule of three type reversal. But the trend, you know, if you have a trend, you need to try to stay with it as much as possible. Had we sold that green bar sell, which is right here, we could have covered it relatively close. I wouldn't necessarily cover it there. I'd probably give it a few ticks. Doggone it. All right, maybe I will cover it right there. There we go. Nice little progression lower. Notice the width of this bar right here where the sellers and the buyers were really battling it out right near these lows. Now the market may still come back here and produce another signal, and I would consider that a rule of three at that point. I guess it's difficult. You don't want to get stuck looking at too many counter trend signals because you end up potentially missing the with trend signals. And I wish I could say that never happened to me before, where I got stuck looking counter trend, counter trend, counter trend, and the market just kept trending without me. I guess that's one thing about trading, is you never really stop learning. All right, here we've got a cloud crossover now on the Raptor. And we're going to execute an order here. And we're going to throw a stop in above the highs. Still very range-bound market. This type of trade, is almost like a 50-50 type trade where, well, you've got an even chance, right? Because it's hard to say at this time whether the market is moving sideways or whether it's actually going to pick up some sort of trend. All right, we've hit our break-even trigger. Got these telemarketers keep bothering me during trading hours. I'm going to do what a friend of mine does. She's got a rape whistle beside the telephone for the telemarketers when they call. Surprise! All right, so we're back now near the low of the day. We're trailing our stop at break even. I think we can get maybe something a little bit more aggressive going here. Sure, let's go to the parabolics. And I do believe our hawk trade deserves the same sort of treatment. Oh, don't you dare bounce too hard. Don't you dare. Come on, down here, come get me. We did get a trend change signal here on the Eagle as well. Not nearly as clear as the other tools because of all this sideways chop that we've been seeing here in the Eagle. This signal not really jumping out at you. Not really tradable at any rate. Come on, get down there, you stinkers. You can do it. Nope. You're going to flinch here at these lows near where the market opened this morning. And I just got tagged on the little bit of the reversal here on the hawk. That's okay. Put a couple dollars in the account on that one. Enough to pay the broker's commission and fees anyways. Our Raptor stop a little bit better placed on the other side of 44.02. And of course with the Raptor, I did have a profit objective, so we took profit on one contract and we're trying to run out the second one. Although in hindsight, I might have been better off just grabbing profit on both when I had it. Days like today, I think you're better off going all in, all out. Yeah, all right. Well, took profit on one, tagged me break even on the other. It was, it was a worthwhile trade. Again, the cloud crossover for you Raptor traders. Cloud crosses over. We anticipate the market to retreat into the cloud, and then for the cloud to offer resistance. Market comes out, produces a signal, and that tends to be a high probability signal. But I have to say I'm at a bit of a loss as to where the market might go to next. You can see the hawk full retreat, now back into yellow bars. No fun. No fun today. Crude oil still not doing very much. Yeah, this is starting to smell more and more like a trading range. And a rather tight trading range at that. Tony says, seems like forever since we got a nice looking late filter entry signal on the NASDAQ, and I think you're right. I think there was one yesterday that I took that actually failed, which is very unusual, but look at the Falcon here. It's like a roller coaster at Disneyland. It's all over the place. This one, pretty decent if you happen to be watching the Asian session on the NASDAQ. Had a little bit of follow through, but this one near the close, I probably would not have taken that one because it was so close to the close. I wasn't trading at that time, but just FYI. Yeah, you're right, Tony. It's just been a real mess here. Ugh. That's a technical trading term, by the way. Ugh. Oh, Oh, there we go. Floyd says Yellen speaking today and tomorrow. Well, that's going to put the Knicks in the wrinkle, as they say. Okay, Ryman's asking, your trade forecaster settings are different than my Raptor. Is that why your setting is 12 ticks and I am using 8? Well, the default settings on the Raptor is an 8-tick brick. The Eagle, we use a 12-tick brick, but that should not affect the trade forecaster. The trade forecaster is more dependent on your open time. You want to make sure that it's set according to your computer clock. So the market's open at 6:30 a.m. my time. You can tweak your computer clock to make it think it's in the Central Time Zone or even the Eastern Time Zone, in which case I believe the default value is for the Central Time Zone with an 8:30 start. And other than that, it depends on the data series. I'm running a default 24/5, and I believe you have to have at least 25 days. I think that's what Ben told me. You need 25 days on the trade forecaster. I don't know why I have 50. It's a little redundant. I was probably doing some back testing or something. But that will have more effect on your trade forecaster than the brick size. I can change the brick size here. The trade forecaster will remain the same. Yeah, it looks like it's going to continue to chop about today. Okay, so Ryman, you're set. You said you're set at 9:30 a.m. That's your start time. You're in the Eastern Time Zone. And your template is also 24/5. I think there's something about that 24/7 template. I'm not sure why they really include it, but they do. Yeah, it could be your data. It really shouldn't affect it that much. What I would suggest is that you email Ben, and Ben's email is support@indicatorwarehouse.com. I'll send that to everybody in case anybody is having issues. Well, things getting a little bit Ryman says his data is set at 50 days also. Yeah, email Ben. There might be a little tweak in there that I've forgotten about. So what's going on now is we seem to be getting these little bounces. So you can draw a little trend line like this. Market gets up, produces a little bounce, and market comes down. Oop, that went a little bit deeper than I thought. Oop, stop it. Yeah, it's just a well-balanced market today. Here was a red bar buy that would have been kind of interesting because we're buying closer toward the bottom end of the trading range. Yuck. Well, honestly, the best thing to do is avoid it. Avoid it until it gets outside of this range. Or if you wanted to be very aggressive on it, we'll use the Raptor here as an example. You could buy the bottom end of the range, sell the top end of the range. Forget about anything in the middle. The market's just too balanced. It looks like I should have brought a Swiffer into the office with me. I could do a little dusting. Gonna fire the cleaning lady. I can't fire her. She's the boss. Well, I'm just scanning the rest of the markets. Really nothing going on here this morning. Well, we'll hang for a few more minutes and then we may button things up a little bit early. I do have a meeting at the top of the hour. Yeah, like Phil says, firing the cleaning lady can be a very expensive proposition. Yeah. It's easier just to do it yourself or hire a real cleaning lady. Might be getting a late filter entry signal here after all, after Tony just pointed out that we haven't gotten one for a while. It's not a pretty one, not by any stretch. It's, bouncing off of this whole support region again, 4402. Keep that number in mind. That number is going to be coming into play the next few days to be sure. Just checking the reports calendar. Oh yes, well no, Yellen. Oh, okay, next FOMC announcement at 11:30 a.m. my time, so a couple hours here still. And then tomorrow, let's see what's up for tomorrow. Oh, we got existing home sales, crude inventory, and Yellen speaking at the top of the hour, the top of the opening range. So I don't know, we just don't have a whole lot of follow through right now. Seems like every time the market tries to make a break for it, it ends up failing, which is typical of a sideways trading market. And you'll notice all the yellow bars on the hawk. Over here, all these yellow bars. Pretty yucky. Oh, great. That might have been the tweak. Ryman says, I hit the refresh, that's the F5 button on your keyboard. And he says, now I have the same settings on my trade forecaster as you do. So something you never want to do when you're in a trade, but you can reload your Ninja script, which is your refresh button. And yeah, good, I'm glad. I'm glad that the settings synced up now. Joe says, am I too late to the party? Yeah, I think we're all too late to the party. The market not doing very much today at all. Struggling to find any kind of direction. Yeah, sideways junk. That's what Joe says. We're stuck in a sideways pattern, and that's exactly what it is. I'm tempted to, try to buy a breakout higher. If I had to choose, I might say the buyers are stronger today. But that's strictly a gut check. Nicely done, Joe. Joe says he picked up a few dollars trading gold this morning. Well done. Yeah, gold actually had a little bit of a downtrend early and now is also in a bit of a mess. Here was gold on the Falcon. We got a nice little trend change signal here after a considerable amount of sideways chop also. If If you missed that one, you did get a second chance at this one here. Now, this would have been a nail biter. Why? Well, because it's printing away from the trend line. You tend to get your better signals on the Falcon when the market does a little retreat into the trend line, produces a signal. If it produces a signal away from the trend line, like this one did, I normally anticipate that the market's going to try to retreat into the trend line. So for that reason, when you place your stop, your entry is down here. You need to try to keep your stop, well, as far back as possible, but certainly above the trend line somewhere in case the market tries to recover into that trend line. Things will flatten out a little bit, and the last thing you want is to get tagged for a tick or two only to watch the market fall off sharply without you. But in this case, no problem. Gold made a nice smooth progression lower, looking at a possible trend change signal. This is kind of tied in with that rule of 3 that we looked at earlier in gold, which did not amount to a rule of 3. It bailed early and continued lower. All right, you know what, guys, and girls, we're going to wrap up the room a little bit early here. We're just getting a ton of overlap. I don't think we're going to see too much more out of this market. I think we're going to wrap things up for today, and we'll try it again tomorrow. Quick reminder, tomorrow we are meeting at the open house room at the public venue, and so we'll see you guys then. Shoot, I don't even know what to recommend for today. I think I would let the market get outside of this range. It looks like we're going to see it fall back down here toward these lows. But until it breaks out and stays out, I think you can just anticipate more of the same. So don't get too crazy buying and selling. You may throw a onesie on here and there just to see what happens, but it's tough slogging today. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow then. Bye for now.